Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Forever, the show of rage, violence, and passion. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I am coming to you live from your very wrist. It is I, Niall McGowan.
Leave my wrist out of this.
Your wrist knows what it did, John.
I've sprained it.
It's been as busy as Chase Meridian's in the last minute there.
On that bombshell, I will introduce our two very special guests joining us once again. You know them. It's Rikky and Ash. They're back.
Hello. I hate this film.
It's quite good because we've had some people on who they don't like the movie, but they don't hate the movie. They're kind of like, eh. So I actually really like that someone's on who hates it. I think we've only had one other person actively dislike the movie.
I will say this is probably, sorry to give it to you guys, but this may be the worst minute of the movie, quite frankly, because it is just very dry, terrible dialogue between Bruce and Chase.
I referenced bad soap opera dialogue in the last minute, and then we put this, and I was just like, oh, this is 45 seconds of the exact same thing. And then there's a little 15 seconds with a watch.
Hey, that's why we need the very best in to call this one.
Yeah.
We've got to eke everything out. We've got to juice it.
It's going to be a nice short episode.
This minute in question is minute 65, and the minute starts with some erotic inching, and it ends with Dick off on his travels. See ya, have fun.
Bye-bye.
But yes, Bruce and Chase to inch ever closer.
Yeah,
closer,
Bruce is really, because he's a man who, like, his mission at this moment is to deflect Chase Meridian away from Batman and into his own arms. And he is very much like she's talking about somebody else who she doesn't realize she's talking about the same guy. But he's just like, inching closer and closer, and just like all his like, but I can't be jealous of Batman. Like really laying it on thick. Like, again, I remember when Clarice Lockery was on, she was like insulted by the character of Chase Meridian because she's like, how could she not figure out that this guy is Batman within 5 seconds? And this scene in particular is like, for Christ's sake, it's right there.
Yeah. Well, that's all my notes for this minute.
Well, I was going to ask, like, do you think she's starting to catch on? Because, she thinks Bruce is jealous. Like, the look on her face as well when she brings this up. Like, she likes it that he's jealous. Like, what a weird attitude.
I am not informed enough to be able to discuss the concept of the male gaze. But I feel like everything that she does is written by a bloke and is from the point of view of what you think of how a bloke would want Nicole Kidman to seduce them. Even when she starts talking about violence, passion. It's just like, who on earth actually talks like that ever? And if somebody did talk like that in real life, you'd be proper. You wouldn't be inching closer to them. You'd just be like, this is awkward. Stop talking like this. Just be a normal
I'd be
person.
inching further and further away.
Well, that's the thing. That might be true if you yourself were not a complete psychopath who likes to dress up in rubber and go out and, as she says, like go through nightly torment. So it could be like, this is like, because they're both very, two very attractive people. We're like, oh, I guess we're viewing it through the lens of this being like normal people. Where this is kind of been like, these two were freaks. Like, these are two like kinky freaks who were like, oh yeah, kind of. It's it was more apparent when it was Bruce and Selena, because they were attracted to each other through their mutual fetishism in a way, and their mutual damage obviously as well. But the Bruce and Chase kind of getting it on here, and the sexual tension becoming harder and harder to cut through is it's because it's like, the two of them are just really like internally fetishistic people.
I think it's in keeping with how dull a lot of the film is that the film actually has a very boring name, Batman Forever. And I think it would have been it's a missed opportunity on their part that they didn't take them off what you suggested, and the film isn't called Batman Kinky Freaks.
I mean, I'd be the first in the line to buy a ticket to that.
Although the thing is that you're saying like, Batman Forever is a boring title. I'm like the original was like Batman Keeps Going. It's like just keep more Batman. There you go.
More Batman. That would be a good name. I think they're quite close to doing that with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Two Bat, two Man.
It was back before the days of where like everything had to have the word like rise or dawn in the title.
Oh God, yeah.
So when they announced the Rise of Skywalker, it's like, really? You have to put Rise in another goddamn title? Like, it's done. It was done to death like 10 years ago.
So then Bruce's phone watch goes off. And both of the actors have clearly been told, probably under protest on their part, that they have to respond to his phone watch going off as if it's his penis going off. Again, there is no situation in reality where humans would do that. They would both look kind of sheepish and embarrassed. And they kind of, oh dear, okay, oh yeah.
But you don't realize, though, Ricky, is that Alfred has another means of contacting Bruce, and it's via like a ring that he has on his penis. So that's why he's so like, oop, and then he's just like, oh, thank God it's the watch. Oh, that could have been embarrassing.
And then we cut to the video. He's got like an Apple video. Do Apple Watches have video calling on them now?
Surely.
I don't think they
No,
do.
maybe they
Really?
don't.
But the thing that gets me with this is that the watch goes off, there's a video on it, but this is the 90s and she's not questioning that at all. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
That's
is the kind of
amazing.
thing, like, because this is like proper, like, oh, this is Batman technology. Have a video watch. This is the kind of thing you shouldn't be showing, like the lady in the apartment with you. You should be like, I need to go outside so you can't see that I've got like sci-fi tech.
Just, I need to go outside to fart.
Especially when you're trying not to be seen as Batman in a situation.
Yeah.
I can't be jealous of Batman.
That's
I've
maybe-
got his watch.
Yeah.
I stole it.
What also bugs me about the watch is that it's still got the little thing in the like at the side to wind it, like it's got like normal hands and stuff.
So
But
it
surely
blends
if it's got a screen, it'll be digital. It'll be
That's
a
for the
digital watch.
tracking-
It won't
that's a
require that.
tracking wheel.
You are wrong, because this watch actually existed as a real watch that you could buy that was released when the film was released. I can't remember the company that made it. But it's the same strap, it's the same face, kind of. It
Did
doesn't
it have Alfred Michael Goff just like staring out at you?
it doesn't have
It is 2 o'clock.
it doesn't have video call function on it, and it was like an expensive, like, it was before all blokes had to have like chunky watches that looked like a wrestling belt, and it was like an elegant small screened watch. The book was for like a bloke. A bloke? What's the point I'm trying to make? It wasn't like a kid's watch. It was marketed as like a proper, like, luxury item for a fella.
Yeah.
But if you could flip the face over and it had the little Batman logo on it.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Yeah.
So buy us one for Christmas, yes,
That
listeners.
just reminds me. That's a thing, though. It seems to be very exclusive to Bond movies, though, which I guess is like Batman's very Bondish in a lot of ways. But yeah, because every time, like, I never see it with any other movies, but every time there's a Bond movie out, you'll get like, you can buy James Bond's watch, you can buy his cologne, you can buy his shoes, and all this kind of stuff. It's all geared towards like, sort of middle class men who've got a bit of expendable income, who are like, you can pay hundreds to have the same watch that James Bond has, because I guess that'll make you feel cool. It's one of those. So it strikes me like they were getting in on that kind of action early, potentially.
Yes, yeah, that's no doubt what it was. But cringe.
I also really like how the ringtone for the smartwatch sounds like a bat.
Well, that is true.
Does
yeah,
it?
That is actually.
I did wonder if that was what they were going for, but I couldn't quite place it.
I
It's like
think so, but even more evidence right there.
Like originally was going like calling Batman. It's like, ooh, just ignore that. I put that on for fun, you know.
Is that not the noise your penis makes?
Well,
from time to time.
one thing I will note from the novelization, it's not exactly at this moment, but it did clear up something we talked about in previous minutes, where apparently Chase at one point during this interaction is interrupted with a phone call herself. And she goes, and it's one of her patients, and she has to reassure the guy. She's like, I'm telling you for the final time, there is no light coming out of the back of your TV and going out the window. Like, you're just seeing, you're not seeing anything. Like, it's all in your head and stuff. Which is clearly an indication of that's what the box is doing. The guy is right. He is seeing his brainwaves going out the window.
That would have been actually quite a good idea.
That's a good idea.
They should have kept that.
But we had a thing like in previous minutes, because they do have the little visual thing in the montage of Nygma tech been built, where, the sky is filled with green brainwaves getting sucked into his giant blender on the island thing. And it's like, we were like, at the time, it's like, does everybody see this? Does everybody know this is happening? Are they not questioning the fact? Is it because the box is making them dumber in some way that they don't see that, like, there's loads of, like, light pollution because is this some kind of chemical offshoot of the box and all that kind of thing? This would indicate that nobody can see it, that it's just a visual aid for us, the audience, to see, like, oh, that's what's happening. Whereas if you were there in reality, you wouldn't see anything. You know, it's
yeah. Plus, they're that out of it because they're so into the box.
Yeah, but you think though people on the street would be like, "What the hell? Why is the sky filled with like a swirling green vortex? Where the hell's that coming from?" You think Bruce Wayne of all people would be like, "What the hell's going on out there?"
None of that really made sense to me when I rewatched the film, but that's not to say necessarily that it didn't make sense. Just that I was too lazy to go, I just don't care. What is green lasers coming out? But I like the idea that it could have been, it's quite interesting that, like, she then takes another call, and she takes a call, and it could have been like a humorous thing, a humorous thread running through that she has lots of patients on call who are varying stages of different insanity, that she has to, oh no, it's not this, you haven't really got bugs crawling under your skin or anything like that. And to have that bit of dialogue in the film where she's dismissive of what the person's saying and is dismissing it as a mental problem, there's something quite 90s about that. It's like, it's pre-Sopranos, and it's pre people being more having a better understanding of everybody having mental health problems at some point, and it's more of that thing we all used to be aware of when we were in school and stuff like that somebody was a mental person, which we've kind of moved away from now. And I think there's a few others. I thought about the film generally when I was watching it, that the Riddler character was a type of character that came to an end around this point in the
probably
mid-90s.
With this will be the full stop.
Yes, the nail in the coffin. That he's like a dorky nerd, and the fact that he's a dorky nerd it's a trope, and it's in and of itself, it makes him low status. And I think we've kind of moved away from that now, where somebody being an expert or very clever in something, or being somebody who is like a bit of a recluse who works on things, that's kind of seen as a bit more maybe cooler or more acceptable. But it was just like a staple joke character, where it was like it was seen as a buffoonish thing to be back then, and you don't get that quite so much now, which is probably why Jim Carrey's career isn't going quite as well as it was back then.
I do remember, actually, like, it was the couple of years after this, in the late 90s, because I remember that's when nerds started becoming respectable. I remember even Buffy the Vampire Slayer pointing it out, when I think, like, there's one scene where Xander calls Willow a nerd, and he's just like, "Oh God, I'm sorry," and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, nerds are in," and then she's like, "We're still in, aren't we?" And then like, "Yeah, you're cool." So, but I remember at the time, like, culture itself going like, we now accept these people. They've made it. They've overcome the Edward Nygma stigma.
Hey.
Nygma stigma. There you go.
Only partially accepted, though. I mean, if people found out we were doing this podcast, other than the two people listening, we'd be banished from society. I tell people about it, and they think I'm an absurd human being.
Because you also get those things too, where like, oh, it's acceptable now because you have things like the Big Bang Theory, and it's like no respectable nerd would accept the Big Bang Theory because it's still mocking the culture.
Like the Big Bang Theory is laughing at nerds. Silicon Valley is a show for nerds in a similar vein. Watch Silicon Valley, everyone.
But it's although again, also if you were to do Batman Forever nowadays, Thomas Middleditch. He would be a good Edward Nygma, I feel.
Oh my God, he'd be perfect. I love him. I see. How do you feel about Jim Carrey, right? Because he's doing his whole Jim Carrey thing, which hasn't aged too well. But at the time, he was hot stuff, and this was selling, tickets by the bucket load. So I think he's doing well. He's doing what he's been asked to do. Come in, do your whole Ace Ventura kind of thing to the max. He's doing it. He's performing it well.
Of course, that's the money would be telling him that's the way to go. I think it would have been. Wouldn't it have been really, really nice if he had at least started off playing it straight before he started sucking out people's brains, and then he got gradually more mental rather than just
that's exactly
coming
what
in
we've
full
been
force.
thinking.
It's a script problem again and a directing problem though. I'm going to be generous and say I don't think you can fault Jim Carrey in it. I don't think you can fault most.
They were probably feeling as well like. There's several scenes of him where he's not the Riddler. So if we have kids coming in and he's acting like Jim Carrey acts in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where he's a very gray, sort of dull character, people will be like, what the hell's going on? Why isn't he zany already? So I think they were just like, you have to come in and be wacky from second one. So then when your transformation into the Riddler happens, it's basically all you've done is put on the outfit.
That's all he's done. Nothing's changed about his personality.
It's the exact same man. Who's just like, yeah, I've changed my haircut. Like, that's all I've done.
It feels like they just hated the idea of having any contrast between any like, someone could have an arc, or like the two baddies don't have to both be shouting all the time and cackling constantly. It's like, why does it have to be just one flavor? Like, just
Like, did you notice that Two-Face is basically like, there's not two
the
sides to
Joker.
it. He's just the Joker,
no. But he says he's just the Joker, but he says we, doesn't he?
That's it.
Yeah.
Never explores that concept or anything like that. It's just it's the way he talks.
He's got his coin, which he flicks around, but he doesn't even pay attention to the outcome. He just keeps flicking it till he gets the answer he wants, which is the crazy answer.
Yeah. I would fault Tommy Lee Jones. I don't think Tommy Lee Jones cares. He didn't have the script to work with, didn't have the characters to work with, not directed well, but I also don't think he cares in this film.
No. Although, in talking about, within this minute, they have the whole thing about, like, oh, we're all two people, the light and the dark and whatnot. As badly as the film conveys that concept by having characters who just act the same when they're supposed to have split personalities and stuff. One thing is that we've covered throughout the whole thing is that, I'm sure you guys probably remember from back in the 90s, we've had to talk a lot about the fact that Val Kilmer was for a long, long time regarded as a complete dick. Like, everyone thought he was impossible to work with, a really, really horrible man. Joel Schumacher completely washed his hands of him, after this movie and whatnot, called him psychotic, things like that. But I've been thinking, like, it can't all be bad. So I went out and actively started looking for, like, nice things about Val Kilmer to see, like, what he can't be all that bad a guy. Like, and some people have also said, like, oh, it was a pleasure working with him and whatnot. For one thing, like, Oliver Stone worked with him twice. Like, he worked with him on The Doors, where they like butted heads. Oliver Stone's a very intense man anyway, so imagine having two of them there.
They were both bouncers. He worked with him on The Doors. He was a cook.
And they butted heads.
If someone was too drunk, he'd be like, come on, I'll call you a cab. Come on.
Hey, that sounds like a nice bouncer. Usually they just lash you out on your head.
No.
But Oliver Stone has said, it's like, oh yeah, he's very difficult to work with on The Doors, or playing Jim Morrison, of course. But then he worked with them again years later on Alexander, which of course stars Colin Farrell, who of course is going to be the new Penguin. So it's all connected. But he said, the night and day. He was like, oh yeah, he was an absolute pleasure to work with on Alexander, and he made the joke saying, like, I think he was only aggravated during The Doors because he had to wear leather pants every day. So I think that was what his problem was. But so it was very droll, Oliver Stone.
He was cooking in there.
But I did find one real eye-opening article from Esquire in 2005 where they did an in-depth interview with Val Kilmer, and they made a point of saying like, no, he's for all you heard about him, he's actually like the exact quote that they say here says, Kilmer seems like an effable fellow with a good sense of humor, and he is totally not messed up, but he is weird. And for example, then it goes on to say that, at the beginning of the article, the journalist is told to like fly into like Denver or somewhere and then take a car to here, and then he's told like Val Kilmer's not here. You have to go down to like Kansas or something, and then he has to get on another plane. Fly. He's doing this for like a day, basically flying around the states trying to find the guy. Then eventually he gets to his ranch, and eventually Val Kilmer out of nowhere disappears to him, and he's like, "Hello, I'm Val Kilmer. Would you like to meet my buffalo?" And he brings him out. Val Kilmer at this point apparently he's a massive animal lover. He at this point he owned a dozen buffalo, several horses, chickens, 2 cats called Ernest and Refrigerator. And apparently that he's over the years he's had to give away the buffalo, but if you go on his Twitter and his Facebook, he still posts pictures of the buffalo talking about how much he misses them and stuff.
Oh, does he go and visit them?
I think so, he does. Yeah, he seems to have nowadays he just seems like he's a very thoughtful, kind of calm, a little bit of a melancholy kind of guy. But then you get the kind of vibe from him is that at the beginning of the interview he said it states that Kilmer named one of the remaining ungulates, the buffalo, James Brown, because it likes to spin in a circle and looks like a beast who might beat his wife.
Oh,
I have been talking to he says I have been talking to Kilmer for approximately 3 minutes. It's 5:20 p.m. on April Fool's Day, and it just sort of gets on to things like that, where like he stayed with him for several days, and he's saying like you just have like really long, awkward, weird conversations about like the nature of religion, and then like they would disagree about what religion is, because apparently Kilmer is a Christian Scientist, and so and apparently his brother died from a seizure in a pool, and he kind of starts coaxing him on like, do you think if you weren't Christian Scientists, maybe you could have saved him and stuff like that? And the Kilmer just really shuts this down immediately. But apparently he's very pleasant about it and stuff. And so apparently he'll do things like he'll go and get a giant dictionary and a magnifying glass and look up what religion means. And then when he doesn't like that, he'll go get the Webster's Second Dictionary, and which he dictates is the only dictionary that doesn't have an agenda. And like random things like this,
What the hell? What's he talking about?
It's just like, he's just just loads of like real weird, kind of quirky things about him. But the guy's takeaway from this whole thing is that Val Kilmer's a nice guy who's just very misunderstood. Like he's very temperamental. It's kind of coming out like, remember last season I had the revelation that like after all the bad mouthing of Sean Young over the years, looking into Sean Young, I actually ended up really liking her, because I was like, I think she's just a very passionate woman who just like doesn't take crap from people, and she's just been a bit misunderstood and stuff. But even throughout this, like there's a Reddit AMA you can get with Val Kilmer where he was answering fan questions for an entire night, and he's coming out with things like, remember it said like there's a whole documentary about the making of the Island of Dr. Moreau, where they're talking about him and Brando, like Marlon Brando, been at each other's throats and absolutely despising each other. And in this interview, Kilmer's talking, or in that AMA, Kilmer's talking about how much he loved Brando. And he's like, oh, you're such a nice man. Like, I was going through a divorce at the time. He gave me great advice. And all the stuff about, like, he was good fun. He used to go around with a salad bowl on his head, and that made it into the movie. And, people came and blamed me for the failure of that film, but, like, I died halfway through it, so how could it be my fault? And all this kind of stuff. And it's like, a lot of us getting into, like, maybe Val Kilmer is a nice guy. maybe he's just been misconstrued this whole time.
He always came across
25 years later, all these Hollywood people who get slagged off, give it 25 years, turn out they're a nice guy. Harvey Weinstein, 2045. If you read his Ask Me Anything on Reddit, I've got a nice Val Kilmer fact.
Oh, yeah, shoot.
First name, Valerie.
That's lovely, isn't it? That is nice.
Yeah, and also I just enjoyed in that interview as well that they mentioned to his they asked his daughter what her favorite Val Kilmer movie was, and she said Batman Forever, but only because it seems like it was secretly directed by Andrew Lloyd Webber. So there you go. Of course, Joel Schumacher would go on to make Phantom of the Opera. So there
yes.
you go. It's all tying in together.
So my advice for Chase and anyone who finds himself in this situation, I really wish you did it. If you're in a romantic clinch with somebody and they suddenly turn away and start having a chat on their video phone, on their video phone watch, you pretend you've got a video phone watch as well. And just turn away and just start talking to your watch and just don't blink, just take it all in your
like
stride.
coming out the back of your television. There's no such thing.
Power move.
I will say though, I did allude in the last minute there that I had a little the painting that's in the background, or it seems to be like one of those little changing things that you would go behind to change your clothes.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah.
I'll say I had a little note for that for this minute. I think it's because it's kind of features more in the background here now, and I can't help but feel it's because Bruce is specifically talking about Dick Grayson to Alfred, because if you look at that in the background, it looks like the figure is wearing like a black cape with yellow lining.
Okay, yes, there you go. That's a reason for it to be there. Yes. Thank you.
Can I just say a thing that I want to say was that if that thing appears for a third time, then it will invoke Klimt.
Oh,
That's it.
Summon Klimt.
Yeah.
So I also hope going forward into, because we've got another minute on this one, minute 66, Buffalo 66. I hope that whenever you say something, you introduce it with, "Can I just say something that I want to say?"
Yeah. That's my thing, though.
That's your catchphrase. All the listeners, they're waiting for it. They're waiting. They're like, he's going to do it. He's going to do
it. But the video watch, I have tried to find this online and I can't find the clip, and I'm hoping with the frame of reference that you three have, you might be able to help me. The video watch is also in another 80s film, but it's a lot more out of place. And I remember Tom Hanks's character having it in Dragnet.
Oh,
They're in the back of a car, but I tried to find it online and it's not online. And then I thought maybe it's Dan Aykroyd's character has it in the film Dragnet, or maybe it's in Beverly Hills Cop. Does anyone else have a memory of there being
It seems like
a video
it
phone?
would be something out of like Buckaroo Banzai or something. Like I can imagine Buckaroo Banzai having a video watch, but then that's crazy sci-fi territory.
Naked Gun, maybe, but then you expect out of place things.
No, I'm so gutted that none of you remember. Maybe it's a complete false memory on my part.
I want to know. If anyone listening knows, I want to know. So put it in the group, damn it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to Google it now. I'm doing Tom Hanks Dragnet. Yes! The problem is, if you Google something and you try and put the words video and watch, and you're talking about a film, you're going to get a lot of things that aren't somebody talking to a video watch. But look, no, it's just yes.
Was it Dragnet?
I think it was yes.
Oh?
Can we do an episode that's just me whispering the word yes?
It's your ASMR release that's coming out
Passion.
soon.
Violence.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's come up on Google as being on this page, but this is a full-on 80s kids website, which has an unbelievable write-up about the whole film in it. So I'm really struggling to find it.
Let's read out that entire write-up to see if it eventually says the words video watch.
I've got it. It was not a false memory. Fact number 8, Pep Strebeck's TV watch was a real device.
Oh.
One throwaway moment in Dragnet, which briefly blew the minds of everyone who watched it in the 80s, sees Tom Hanks's Strebeck watching TV on his wristwatch. Although you may not have known it at the time, this was not just a gag for the movie. Such a device really did exist. The Seiko T001 was launched in 1981 and boasted a 1.25-inch LCD screen in which the wearer could indeed watch television.
Really? Holy
Why
crap.
would you want to? But at the same time, I would have bought one if I had the
Oh,
money.
imagine like David Lynch is having a seizure hearing about that. Like, wow.
It then goes on to say it also needed to be connected to a fairly hefty receiver to get the signal. So I think they did slightly black and white.
Yeah. It feels like too like you'd just be holding it up the whole time, holding your arm up would just be a pain in the ass. Like it'd be like I could just watch a TV. I don't have to lift my arms at all for that.
You want to be passive.
Exactly. Well, you're supposed to be at rest, unless you're like Liz Whitaker, like friggin' doing workouts while she watches movies and stuff. That's a bit of a like. Was one time we did an episode about Face Off for like another show, and like all of us were sitting around talking like, "What's going on here?" and stuff. And like, the only person who was actually paying attention to the film was Liz because she was on an exercise bike at the time, and that was a whole big thing. You listen to that episode if people want to know about it.
See, I can't watch a movie while I'm on an exercise bike. I did used to watch wrestling while I was on an exercise bike. That seemed to make sense.
I guess it's all exercise. Those guys are working out, so
Yeah, exactly. It gave me the motivation.
But yeah, I know like we're kind of pressed for time tonight. Does anyone have any other comments about this particular minute, or should we move on to the next one?
What can you say?
I once, when I couldn't find my belt, replaced it with a series of watch straps all linked together.
Genius.
It was a complete waste of time.
Oh.
Yay!
Good night, everybody.
He's
The master
back.
strikes again. I can't live up to that. The only note I had was something we didn't talk about when he says, "You want to know me? You want to know who I am?" All I could think of was he was going to follow it up with, "I'm nuts, baby."
You want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts right here.
Because again, this being the worst minute of the movie. Remember back in season 1, my feelings was the worst minute of the movie was when Bruce was trying to tell Vicky who he was in her apartment, which was immediately followed by the "let's get nuts" scene. So
Yeah.
I guess it all ties in, really.
So it's the worst one again. So basically, Batman should just stop trying to reveal who he is.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
to be fair, like the concept of Batman having a therapist and whatnot and becoming involved with a psychiatrist is an interesting one. But any movie where Batman's trying to reveal who he is, because most of the time, the audience never wants him to not be Batman. They don't want him to get better or to have to like stop being Batman in some way. So it is kind of like just get back in the cape, dude. Like this, we just want to see you as the brooding Dark Knight. We don't want to spend an entire minute of just close-ups of these two actors whispering about violence and passion and things like that. I know it sounds very juvenile to say that, but frankly, it's true.
You've just really depressed me by reminding me of what it probably is the worst scene in that first Batman film, but Michael Keaton still being absolutely charismatic and compelling throughout all of it.
Hell
you
yeah.
You compare Keaton to flat, dull Kilmer in this. I am saying words on a screen. I am being filmed reading a script.
Just you wait till what you get in the next film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she had the natural charisma of Clooney there, but I guess it ain't in a performance. At least Val's acting.
Yeah.
He's doing something. He's making an effort, kind of.
He's not the worst thing about the film, is he? He's there. He does the stuff. He's not that annoying compared to some of them.
Yeah, he could be much worse, I think.
It could be worse.
But yeah, I'm happy to.
I'm
happy
good.
to-
Yes,
If
we
you guys
will head off again. Do you guys want to plug anything or say where you can be found online again? You could have new things, the same things, or just leave it alone, whatever you want.
Ash, what's your house address?
Number 36, Batman Road.
That is a true fact. That's why we asked Ash on the show.
Yep. Nothing more to say on that.
That's it then. We're going to leave it at that. And we ain't plugging anything till Friday. I don't care. Whatever. We'll be back for minute 66 on Friday. So see you then, everybody, for more Bat Minute Forever.
Next time, Grand Theft Auto, Gotham City. Robin does some robbing and commits the cardinal sin of capturing the Batmobile for an unsolicited dick spin. But while the orphaned offspring smashes it up with pride, whose attention has been attracted to the Batman's beloved ride. Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da.